Welcome back to Americanuck Radio on the Mojo 50 Radio Network. I am the Americanuck Mike Phillip, coming at you live from Western Canada, broadcasting in the United States of America. God bless her. We've got an excellent guest. I love having this guy on the show, Senior Chief Don Shipley. Check out his YouTube channel, Former Buds 131. This guy is very entertaining the way he goes around busting fake Navy SEALs, and we've had him on the show a few times. Always a great guest. Don, welcome back to the show.
Well, thank you. I got to correct you immediately. I went after that Nathan Phillips, that Native American that had those sophomore boys on the Capitol steps, and I pulled his records and outed him, and when I did the video, YouTube deleted my channel. So now my channel is Former Buds 131, and I have a smattering of videos up there, including this last clown I busted in Atlanta.
I actually pulled up your new channel, Former Buds 131, and I wanted to ask you about that whole thing with Nathan Phillips. And listen, when you were talking about him and that whole scenario with the Covington kids, I was thinking the exact same thing that you were saying. Thank you for your service, jerk-off.
Yeah, that's right. A Maytag repairman in the Marine Corps that just kept going AWOL, and they kicked him out. But it didn't stop him from making those outrageous claims. And just, you know, an American, an Indian, elder, and a Vietnam vet, and they turned the tables on those high school boys badly. And I felt I needed to get involved. So, yeah, I got his records.
Well, I'll tell you what, a judge has just overturned the decision that it turns out they are going to get that lawsuit against the Washington Post. So Bezos is going to pay a lot of money for smearing those kids' reputation. And it's funny because your channel got yanked over that, right? And this guy has since been disgraced, but they don't care. They don't reinstate your channel. It's just a one-shot thing. But I'm glad that you're back up on Former Buds 131. His website, everybody, is extremesealtraining.com. Let everybody know what you do with that, Senior Chief.
Well, I don't do anything with that now. I've retired from that. We did 10 great, wonderful, profitable seasons of getting guys from all over the world to come to Virginia, and I just put them through 2 weeks of SEAL training. But I was getting older. I know when the ride is about to end. So we retired, bought a nice, beautiful waterfront farm on the eastern shore of Maryland, and I just take wounded guys and out goose and duck hunting. So this weekend is a big duck hunting thing for me. In fact, the last time you talked, I had guys out duck hunting. We were shooting ducks on the radio, I think.
You were, yeah. We could hear the shotguns going off. You were in a duck blind, and we were talking, and then all of a sudden you were like, "What? Here they come! Here they come!" And we hear the guns go off. That was classic radio. One of the best part of your videos is that wife of yours. She's hilarious. How's Diane doing?
Mean as a snake.
Right on. All right, enough.
The only person I'm afraid of.
Me too. I watch those videos, and I see her confront guys on the street, and I think, man, I think I would rather have Dawn after me.
Yeah, she's a good woman, a Navy vet herself. She raised me and my SEAL son and just all the SEALs, and too many memorials for her. She has no tolerance for this. So where I can stay a little bit cooler, she doesn't. She just says what's on her mind, and it is always clever, crafty, and makes the point.
She's good. Yeah, she's entertaining as well. I almost feel sorry for some of these guys because you give them every opportunity in the world to just fess up, and you're very calm about it. And the way they squirm and try to worm their way out of it, I almost feel a little bit sorry for them, but at the end of the day, I do not. Now, that's enough pleasantries. Everybody's heard this stuff before. I have a lot of people that were fans of yours, and as soon as they found out you were coming on the show, they were very excited. Let's get into this situation with Chief Petty Officer Eddie Gallagher. I called you last night because I was reading about it in the New York Times, and I don't trust a whole lot of what comes out of them. I texted you, I called you, and you said you had just been on the phone with Eddie's lawyer. Senior Chief, could you get into the situation with Chief Petty Officer Gallagher and what happened that got him in trouble to begin with? Let's start at the beginning and then wind our way through this story to where we're at today.
Okay, I won't be too long-winded, but if I do, don't hesitate to stop me.
You've got a full segment, sir. Go ahead.
Tim Palator, Eddie's lawyer, has come to my Extreme SEAL Experience training course several times. In fact, the last time I saw him was his honeymoon with his wife, and I pushed them both out of a helicopter into the Northwest River for a present for them. And Tim took on that case, and Eddie was getting the shaft from the beginning. And I'll tell you about Eddie. The SEAL community is behind Eddie, 100%.
Yep.
There are a few things that have come that, it makes it sound like nobody is. Eddie is really beloved in there. And Eddie was a very aggressive SEAL and a very aggressive, knowledgeable platoon chief. He's a matter-of-fact guy. And when Eddie was told to do something, Eddie would get it done. Eddie didn't argue. The problem with Eddie now and the way the military is going with some of the things that are happening is millennials. Millennials question everything. Millennials don't know when to shut up. They don't know how to change a tire in a car. They've never changed a fuse in their life. They are a computer, sit around and play these computer games, and they think they're entitled to everything when they are not.
Agreed.
And they get through SEAL training as well. We're dealing with millennial SEALs now who question everything that's put at them instead of realizing, I'm a new guy, I've got no say-so in this, I need to shut up and just do it. And Eddie perhaps should have gave those guys a little extra time on the teeter-totter at recess, or gave them more ice cream, or talked nicer to them, but he did not. He told them, as a platoon chief, you're going to shut up and do this mission. I don't want to hear anything else about it. So oftentimes, there are thankless missions out there, but somebody has to do them. And that mission was not particularly popular, but Eddie put a smile on his face and did what a good platoon chief did, and they did the operations. And those guys just created a little bit of mutiny. They didn't like the way Eddie talked to them, treated them, and again, not enough time on the teeter-totters at the recess for those little millennials. So they decided to screw Eddie. It's not the first time it's ever happened in the military, the Navy. This goes back to getting some payback on, people that you ain't real happy with. I think the term in Vietnam was fragging, and it involved a grenade.
Right.
Somebody will do something. And so they started this little mutiny, and they had no idea what the outcome of that would have been. They were simply trying to screw him out of a Silver Star, and they did not want to go through his new training course at a new position he was going to in the Navy. He was going to be an instructor, and they were all going to have to go through it sometime. And one thing led to another. And they just embellished and inflated this thing. And it caught the attention, and it caught the wrong attention. And one thing leads to another. So Tim Palator got on there, and he just soundly defeated them. Eddie didn't kill that guy. They did everything they could to prove that he did. He did not, so all they could get him on was posing with a corpse. And that, unfortunately, has been a Navy or Army or Marine Corps tradition throughout history since they invented photographs, war trophy souvenirs, things like that.
Well, that's what
he's
got
the only
me.
one that got in trouble for it.
Yeah, that's what got me about the whole story, posing with a corpse. I mean, so what? You train these guys to be, they're killing machines. But war is messy, and of course they're going to be like that. And I couldn't believe that was the case. Like it sounded to me like, what is this?
Well, it probably never would have got any real attention had the other stuff not come up. But that's what. So the court-martial gets dismissed. So the Navy goes, okay, well, we lost that one. Let's get him on this. And then Palator's back in action. It just goes back and forth, and it's. Now they're considering, because Trump's been involved in this thing 4 different times.
Right.
I'll sing Trump's praises all day long. You can say what you want about Trump, but as far as the military is concerned, it seems like Trump is the only politician who knows we are not at war with the Pennsylvania Dutch or the Amish.
Right.
That we are fighting ruthless savages who know no rules, have no rule books, have no ethics training. They are brutal, savages. And he realizes that now. Every military, us, I don't say every, us, we have rules of engagement, and we do our best. But the longer these conflicts go on, and I can tell you all about deployments and how hard it is to be away and how bad the food is and the sleeping arrangement, how hot it is, the tempers get short, the closer you get to going home, just this, it's very hard over there dealing with that. And it's really hard being a platoon chief of keeping, because you have a couple of officers in the platoon, but you are the center of gravity in that platoon. Everything fluctuates around you. You are the big dad. You are the all-seeing, all-knowing guy. You deal with everybody's problems, from the officers to the enlisted guys. And they just wouldn't let it go. But Trump realizes this. And again, I'll say Trump knows that there are limits that we can't exceed. But in the 3 cases that he did, you realize that's just not called for. We asked these guys to go over and do these absolutely the dirtiest jobs out there. And Eddie has done them a lot. And for a lot of years, that guy's got a tremendous amount of combat experience. And, the Green Beret that they did it to, the Green Beret, the guy they let go, he either could have took a left and gone to a friendly, or he could have taken a right and gone back with his bad guys. And he took a right. He was going right back to doing what he did, and he took matters into his own hand. People do. Was it wrong? Yes. Was it right? Yes. For Trump, I get really spun up about it, but I think Trump did the right thing. There's no reason for these guys to serve 30 years in prison over something like that. And this thing with the Navy now and Gallagher, I'll tell you what a Trident Review Board is. I don't think they came out with it quite the way they said review board. And what it is a Trident Review Board. And I have never seen a chief have a Trident Review Board. Never, never, never. And I've sat on a lot of them. They are reserved for young guys, young enlisted SEALs who just have safety violations or late, a DUI, drugs. There's 1,000 ways you can lose your Trident. One bad day in SEAL team, and we're hard on each other, So you sit in a board with a guy like me, a couple of master chiefs, and we grill you about the incident that happened. We're trying to make a decision to take your Trident. And if we decide to, you're going to the fleet or you're getting out of the Navy. We don't physically take it. It's not like we break a saber over and rip your stripes off. We remove your NEC, Navy Enlisted Classification Code 5326, SEAL. Meaning, you're not going to be a SEAL anymore. We've taken that away. And Admiral Green and Donald Trump are like 2 bulls in a pasture. They are both stubborn. They are used to getting their way, and they are locking horns over this. And I'm just shocked that it has gone on this long, and it's just back and forth, back and forth. Nobody wants to give up. Nobody wants to concede. And I have no doubt they're going to take that Trident, and then I have very little doubt that Trump isn't going to give it back. So what more damage can we do to the Navy? We're running a guy like Eddie Gallagher through the ringer and just making headlines and headlines and tarnishing the SEALs and rats and thanks and narcs and all that stuff. And we're still doing it again. It's just terrible. It almost makes me want to stick my head in the sand sometimes.
So you think that Admiral Green is this doesn't really have anything to do with Eddie Gallagher. It has to do with sticking it to Trump for him.
That whole thing started, I'll say this.
And how
many? Eddie was sent to the brig.
Yeah, 4 months, wasn't it?
Brig, well, he'd have been in there a hell of a lot longer with that bug-witted first attorney he had. And I have some experience with attorneys. And when attorneys are getting a paycheck, oftentimes there's no reason for them to take the easy way and end this thing quickly. The longer it goes on, the more money they make.
Yep.
And that guy was about to, and that's what his wife was complaining about, why they're going after him now, that he wasn't going to have him released anytime soon and let this cash cow go. But why throw Eddie in the brig? These are just mere charges. This is where I don't get. And I guess somebody could do that to you today, and all of a sudden you find yourself in jail for some stuff that never happened or never happened like that. Where's the due process? We're going to take this decorated chief petty officer and throw him in the brig.
Yeah.
because of a couple of young guys that made. I mean, where's Eddie going to go? Was Eddie going to slip the country and cross the Canadian border and hide out? He wasn't going anywhere. That was unnecessary. You don't do that. I mean, you're just already starting shit. Excuse me.
That's fine. So listen,
And,
do you think that when everything comes out in the wash, like Gallagher was going to retire right away anyways, wasn't he? I mean, what this just salt on a wound, basically.
Yes, Eddie is that close, and he doesn't want anything more to do with the United States Navy. He just wants out.
Do you think that after everything comes out in the wash, these millennial SEALs, as you referred to them, do you think they could end up before a review board and get their trident yanked?
Well, I doubt it, because as far as they're touting these guys, they did the right thing, and they are being held up. And a lot of us are just looking at it like, "Oh my God, you guys kidding me?" I don't know. They were talking about a couple other guys. I don't know if they're talking about the platoon commander or anything else. I'm just real tired of the whole thing. I wish that those tables. In fact, I mentioned that to Palator. I after all this is said and done, I hope you go after those guys for doing that and bringing all that to light in the first place. All those gross embellishments, exaggerations, just something to get attention.
When you have this kind of backbiting and setting people up inside of the Navy SEALs or just the military in general, what does that do to morale? I mean, when you know that the guy next to you in theater could go back and say something because he got his nose out of joint with something that you did, isn't that a breakdown of basic respect and trust and the chain of command?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. What are we expecting these guys to do? The big deals get made out of all kinds of this stuff. What do you expect these guys to do now? And as I said, the longer these conflicts go on, the more mistakes get made. And these young guys that are over there in the few seconds that they have to make a life and death decision. Part of those few seconds is wondering, if I pull this trigger, am I going to jail for the rest of my life? And I wonder how many guys that cost their lives of hesitating out there. Be clear, and you've got there, when you send guys in to do that, go in and kill guys, just let them do the doggone job. I'm not talking about being a horde of Huns, but some of this is just common sense stuff. So It does have a terrible snowball effect, not only in the SEAL community, but the military in general. And guys are getting tired of this. And, it's bad. There's a lot of confusion going on right now.
Well, and even just camaraderie outside of service. I mean, I thought you guys were all very tight. I mean, nobody's going to want to hang out with these guys now. I mean, isn't that kind of an unwritten rule that you don't rat out your buddy?
See, they never thought it would go that way.
But the civilian leadership got involved
in-house, and then JAG officer got a hold of it. To caught somebody's attention. You're using the word murder here, guys.
Right.
That's why those guys they were inexperienced, new guys. They had no way to see where this was going. They never should have done it, and if they did, they never would have done it. And there was no way to get out of it then. And then all of it started again. They just wanted to screw the platoon chief a little bit, that's all it was.
And then it took on a life of its own, and it was out of their hands at that point.
Yep, and that's the way Palator puts it. It's too late now. The train has left the station, and we got to go forward with this. And it's just, after I just wish that after, he was found innocent, that people would have forgotten about this pretty doggone quickly, and we just could have moved on. But people would just wake up every morning, and it's something else about this kid. Something more about Eddie Gallagher, and it's just, it just stays of, wow, you guys, the SEALs, I never thought you guys would be like that. Well, it ain't us.
Well, wasn't there was a few SEALs that were arrested for running drugs up from Mexico and Iraq just recently, or was that a lie in the media?
I've never heard that one.
Okay, you would have heard of that if that happened, right?
Well, I'm not saying it didn't. We're young, but guys that become SEALs did not play the violin in high school while everybody else was playing football. We're rough guys, and the idea of explosives, grenades, and machine guns appealed to us. That's why we became SEALs, to break things and hurt people. And so, some things we are not. Sometimes SEALs are held to a really high standard. People have some real misconceptions about us, and by and large, we are just the great, decent people that eat at Applebee's and coach softball teams and take our kids to church and, all that. But there certainly is an element that's happened before. I don't know. I never heard that story before, but, stuff happens in every community.
Right. Yeah, no, it was amazing to me, and that's why I reached out to you, because like you said, the name Eddie Gallagher just keeps coming up and coming up and coming up over and over again. I was thinking to myself, what the hell is going on with this? Because it never stopped, and it's going on to this very day. So, I really hope that some kind of justice comes out of this. This Admiral Green, could Trump actually just turn around and fire this admiral?
I don't know. I have no idea. I stay out of that, and Admiral Green's decisions are Admiral Green's decisions. But, the point I was trying to make is I believe it's a pushing contest. I knew Admiral Green long before he was an admiral. I think he didn't like Trump releasing Eddie out of the brig, and perhaps Admiral Green had a good reason for putting him in there, and that's probably where it started. And he didn't like that. I am the admiral. I am the big guy in the Naval Special Warfare community, and like me, I didn't like anybody screwing around with my platoon. I am the platoon chief. These are my guys, and I didn't like that. And I don't think Admiral Green liked that. And Admiral Green pushed back, and Trump pushed back, and it's just this back and forth thing that just does not seem to want to end. And nobody is looking very good at all this.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Eddie and Andrea get sent through the laundry on the whole thing just because of a pissing contest, basically.
I have spoken to Eddie.
And what's Eddie saying?
It is just really hard. Eddie. I tell you, Eddie is a solid guy. He's not into bad mouthing a lot of this stuff. Makes common sense. When he talked to me, he was more focused on his wife and getting this thing over with and moving on with his life. But it just doesn't seem that anybody wants to let him.
Right. Well,
it's hard listening to what him and her have been through every day, and their kids, and just the whole thing.
Well, it sounds like she's a great lady. Like, she's had his back and really gone to bat for him throughout all of this.
She saved his ass. That's the only way to look at that. She was the one. She knows Eddie. She's been with Eddie for a good while. Been through these combat deployments. It's not easy being a Navy wife. Eddie over there getting shot at and just gone all the time, and she's responsible for the leaking pipes and the frozen pipes and the flat tires, and it's hard. And it's frustrating. It's aggravating. And then for this to happen right at the end of his career, it upsets me, and it upsets a lot of people.
He's not going to lose any pension or benefits over this or anything like that, is he?
It appears Trump has reinstated all that, and I don't know. I don't know what's really going to happen. I wish it would just go away.
Yeah, well, you said earlier, I'll sing Trump's praises all day. And I agree with you, and most of our listeners do too. Quite honestly, Senior Chief, Trump is the best president I've seen in my life, and I will say that to anybody. I don't care who's listening. And if you talk, if you're a Trump supporter where I live, people will go, and they'll get upset, right? And the guy has been just so bad-mouthed and maligned by the media. But honestly, I love this guy. I think America needed Trump at this time.
Well, I'll tell you, I read an article, I think it was in USA Today or the Washington Times, about how the military is divided about Trump pardoning these guys. But then when you got into the article, they were saying it's mainly coming from the legal side. And, sure, I can understand that. These attorneys that were rewarded for going after, not realizing, you got to know when you're in a fight, you're not going to win. And so if they don't have any SEALs to That's how people get these big positions when they get out. These lawyers, they're back to trying cases of guys getting busted on piss test and going AWOL in the military. Where do they want? They want a big war crimes trial. And if something like that would come up, something they can really sink their teeth into, and when, Trump's throwing that all out, they're getting, well, why am I in the Navy? I'm not going to get anything but these cheesy, arrest things. And when I heard the word illegal, community was a little upset with Trump's decision. I could read right straight into that, too.
Yeah, exactly. They've seen...
everybody's got a job to do.
Right. They've seen a few good men too many times, and they want to get that gotcha moment in the courtroom.
Yes. I was trying to think of that movie when you were saying that.
Right. See, I
every oregano cases, they get that. So,
right. I remember movies really well. I could be a really good fake SEAL, Senior Chief.
There you go. So it's a lot of that, and I just think people know. I don't know. When you become a SEAL in SEAL training, you are taught to never ever quit. Don't quit. But as soon as you get to a SEAL team, some deprogramming takes place, where there are lots of times you need to quit. The winds are too high for this jump. The seas are too strong. They know you're coming. You've lost the element of surprise. There's 1,000 reasons to quit. You're a small unit to walk away from that stuff. And we know how to quit just as fast as we don't know how to quit. And some people just don't have that where they, and I'm talking about the legal thing that keeping pushing this. It was a losing case to begin with, and they should have just walked away from it and dropped it. So
absolutely. We're running
Trump
out of time.
Trump has to rescind their award. They gave those guys awards, and Trump had to rescind those. I mean, this is just going bad, man.
Yeah, absolutely. We're running out of time here, Senior Chief. So are you still posting new videos to former Buds 131 on YouTube, or is that just older stuff? Have you pretty much retired from hunting down fake seals, or are you still doing that in the minute we got left?
No, we got just busted a big one. I have a video website because YouTube is just jerks. Videos.extremesealexperience.com. Former Buds 131. I post teaser videos only just to stay in YouTube's good graces to pull people to my site. So get on Former Buds 131. You'll find my website. Subscribe. It's $10 a month. You'll see all the phonies I get.
Excellent. We'll get that out to all of our listeners. Senior Chief Don Shipley, thank you so much for joining the show.
Well, thank you for getting me so upset this afternoon.
I'm good at my job. You take care. We'll be in touch. Everybody, that was Senior Chief Don Shipley. I'm very proud to have him on the show. What an awful situation with this Chief Petty Officer Eddie Gallagher and what they put him and his family through. This needs to stop. This needs to stop. I hear the music, and that means we're out of time, but we'll be back tomorrow on Americanuck Radio on the Mojo 50 Radio Network. Stick around for Sam Sorbo, the wife of Hercules, on Mojo 50. Bye, everybody.
Americanuck Radio. This is the seditious, rabble-rousing, liberty-loving, home of fun, entertaining, and compelling talk. Mojo 50.